Hello, scholars! On day one, we looked at some animals and some plants and started thinking about how to group them together. Today, we are going to look at groups scientists have made with these plants and animals and why they made these choices. First, let's learn some vocabulary that will help us with our understanding of these groups. The first word, adaptations, we've learned over the past couple of weeks. They are changes over time that help living things survive. The next word is what we're focusing on this week, classification, or classify. Classification is grouping things. When we classify plants and animals and other living things, we usually classify them based on their adaptations. The next two words, vertebrate and invertebrate, are ways that scientists have classified animals. A vertebrate is an animal with a backbone or spine. A backbone or spine is a bone that runs along the back of the animal. Invertebrate is an animal that does not have a backbone or spine. They use something else to provide structure for their body, such as a shell or an exoskeleton. We'll examine more later on invertebrates and vertebrates. The next two vocabulary words are about plants. Vascular and non-vascular. Vascular plants have special channels to transport water and sugar to different parts of the plant. They usually have some sort of stem. Non-vascular. Non-vascular is a plant without these special channels or stems. They usually grow flat and spread out along the ground. Finally, we're going to learn about something called the 6 kingdoms. The 6 kingdoms are a way to group all living things. Bacteria, archaea, protists, fungi, plants, and animals are the 6 kingdoms. We'll learn more about that later. Let's start our lesson by explaining what vertebrates and invertebrates are. Like we talk about in the vocabulary preview, vertebrates have a backbone or spine, and invertebrates do not. Make sure to open up your workbook, scroll down to day 2, and be ready to answer these questions. What is the difference between invertebrates and vertebrates? And what animals are vertebrates and what animals are invertebrates? Let's watch these two different videos to understand what vertebrates and invertebrates are and give us some examples.
What's a vertebrate? Vertebrates are animals that have a backbone, and every person is a vertebrate. In fact, your backbone supports your body against spinal cord, which supports your body, helps you move, and so much more. But we'll get back to humans. Did I mention that there's 5 major groups of vertebrates? So do you mind if I take a swim in this pond? I'll do the backstroke to meet the largest group of animals with backbones. It's fish. They live their whole life in water. Many have scales, bony bodies, and jaws. They breathe with their gills, and almost all are cold-blooded. This pond has salmon. As for sharks, I hope it doesn't. Oh, what's on that lily pad? What a coincidence. The second group of vertebrates is known as the amphibians. They're born in water, then grow lungs to live upon the land. Think frogs and salamanders, cold-blooded with that moist skin. Backbone. 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 Vertebrates are animals that have a backbone. With millions of species, scientists classify animals by their traits to keep them well defined. Vertebrates have one, invertebrates don't. Backbone. Let's leave the water. The shore is more your style. Some members of group 3 are over there. Reptiles, avoid the crocodile and the snake. I like turtles. Reptile skin is waterproof and tough, it's hard to hurt them. Their jaws are unhinged so they can swallow food whole, and they breathe with their lungs. Hold up, look out below. Group 4 is swooping in birds, the vertebrates with feathers. Those warm-blooded, two-legged walkers fly together. Their beaks are known to peck, and I'm told their bones are hollow. Most fly, but some don't. A penguin is not a swallow. The fifth and final group includes you and even me, and cows and cats and kangaroos and even whales in the sea. That's mammals. They're the ones who have hair or fur, breathe with lungs, have teeth to chew their food out they prefer. Give birth to live young unless you are a platypus. You think that was a lot? There's 20 times more invertebrates. Backbone. Backbone. Vertebrates are animals that have a backbone. With millions of species, scientists classify animals by their traits to keep them well defined. Vertebrates have one, invertebrates don't. Backbone.
I can now write down some examples of vertebrates. They gave me a lot. Which ones did you catch? I definitely heard turtles and crocodiles and frogs and fish and birds and mammals, platypuses, and I even saw a giraffe. All those are vertebrates. What did you see? Let's see how invertebrates are different and see if we can get some examples of what invertebrates are.
Most animals in the world are invertebrates. They have no backbone. You might have heard of them. Like a sponge, their shape is asymmetric, which means each side is shaped real different. So take notes if you're willing to learn. The next invertebrate is an echinoderm, like sea stars and sand dollars living in the sea, and their bodies have radial symmetry, which means body parts are arranged around the center. Draw a line down the middle, it's like holding up a mirror. I almost forgot to talk about cnidarians. I try to stay away. Yeah, they're pretty scary because they don't have heads and they don't use fins. Most use their tentacles when they swim, and they sting like jellyfish, coral, hydra, anemone. I would never wish for them to sting a friend or enemy. Invertebrates. We learn about them through their symmetry and similar traits. You better sing with me. I said Invertebrates. No backbone, but we can't forget them. They're the most common creatures in the animal kingdom. There's more invertebrates that we should be considering. Let's talk about a few that have bilateral symmetry. If you draw a line all the way down their center, they have two halves that only match each other. See? Like worms in the water or the ground. Invertebrates are everywhere. There's more to be found. Take mollusks like snails, octopus, squid, and slugs. They can be huge or small as little bugs. They have gooey bodies and a foot for moving, and they'll keep covered by a layer that we call a mantle. The last invertebrate I'll share is the arthropod. Look around and you'll see they're not hard to spot, like arachnids, spiders, or scorpions, crustaceans, and insects. Yeah, there are more of those. Even with no backbone, there's something that's protecting them. A hard covering that we call an exoskeleton. Invertebrates. We learn about them through their symmetry and similar traits. You better sing with me. I said Invertebrates. No backbone, but we can't forget them. They're the most common creatures in the animal kingdom.
Now we can finish our comparison between invertebrates and vertebrates. We can also write our examples in the invertebrate columns. What examples did you see? I heard things like sponges and butterflies and wasps and spiders and octopuses and jellyfish. All of those don't have a backbone or are invertebrates. Remember, you can log in with Clever to watch these videos on your own time to learn more about vertebrates and invertebrates. There's also activities on vocabulary that you can practice. Yesterday, we looked at these 6 animals: Can we classify them as invertebrates and vertebrates now after watching those videos? What do you think? I think that the tiger, the eagle, and the snake are all vertebrates, while the lobster, beetle, and octopus all don't have a backbone and are invertebrates. Next, we're going to compare vascular and non-vascular plants. In our workbook, there's the question, what is the difference? And then what are some examples of vascular and non-vascular plants? We're going to turn to Moby and Tim to learn about vascular and non-vascular plants. This video about seedless plants goes into the differences. Let's watch. I skipped ahead to the part with vascular and non-vascular plants. Let's watch.
Well, just because they all grow from spores doesn't mean seedless plants are all the same. They're actually broken into two main types: vascular and non-vascular. Vascular seedless plants have channels that carry water and nutrients throughout their bodies, sort of like veins and arteries. Ferns are the most common of these. There are more than 12,000 different species. Like all vascular plants, ferns have specialized channels for water transport, as well as roots and stems similar to those in seed plants. That allows them to grow pretty tall, sometimes more than 15 feet. Ferns also have spiral-shaped structures that uncurl into broad leaves called fronds, many of which produce spores. Other vascular seedless plants include ground pines and spike mosses with their needle-like leaves, and horsetails with their jointed stems. They all produce spores at the tips of their stems in structures that look like miniature pine cones. Non-vascular seedless plants, or bryophytes, have simpler structures. Instead of vascular channels, they transport water and nutrients directly through their thin cell walls. It helps that most bryophytes are just a few cells thick and don't grow taller than a few centimeters. Thin root-like threads called rhizoids hold the plant in place and also absorb water from the ground. You'll find bryophytes all over the world in damp environments with plenty of moisture, like forest floors or near ponds, lakes, and streams. Yep, mosses are the most common type of bryophyte. They grow in clumps or layers on the ground, tree trunks, or even rocks. From a distance, they might look like fuzzy green carpets, but up close, they're actually made of leaf-like growths around short, wiry stalks. That's one of the thousands of species of liverworts, funny-looking bryophytes with bodies that look like flattened leaves.
Okay, if we go back to our workbook, we can write what the difference is between vascular and non-vascular plants now. We can also write some examples of vascular and non-vascular plants. What did you hear? I heard that ferns and horsetails and spike mosses are all vascular plants. Trees, flowers, and grasses are also examples of vascular plants, but they also have seeds. Non-vascular plants, I heard examples of liverworts and mosses. Did you hear anything else? Finally, today, we're going to talk about the large system of classification that scientists use to classify all living things. Scientists have combined every living thing into one system, and the biggest separation or group is called the kingdoms. Let's watch this video that explains the 6 kingdoms of life.
I've been searching everywhere. I know there's 6 kingdoms of life, and I'm gonna go through every one of them until I find you.
Archaea, bacteria and protists, animals, plants, fungi, yeah, you know this. There are 6 kingdoms of life, but you're the only one that can make me feel right.
Ever since they took you away, you've been on my mind all night and all day. I need to get you back. I mean, it's hard to live, so I search all 6 kingdoms. I started with the oldest kingdom, Archaea. It's just single-cell organisms. You see, they don't even have a nucleus in cold trenches and hot springs. Archaea do exist. Next, I visited the kingdom of bacteria. They're in the air everywhere. It was scarier. Bacteria are all over what's cool. They help us digest our food, but I still couldn't find you. It was hopeless. I wandered to the water kingdom of the protists. The protists include amoebas and plankton. The algae hadn't seen you, but I thank them. On to the kingdom in the darkest land. Mushrooms decompose dead animals and plants. The kingdom of fungi left me feeling scared, but finding you soon was my only care. Moved on to the green kingdom of the plants. They were baked in light, and they seemed to dance with photosynthesis, turning sunlight into power. I sat on a bed of moss and gazed at the flowers. The sixth kingdom, there was only one left. Animals, I swear they took away my breath. I saw a whale breach and a hawk soar. Butterflies in the sky, heard a lion roar. All the energy they have, they get from food. It was beautiful, but then I saw you. All six kingdoms I had seen couldn't compare to the moment you were next to me.
Archaea, bacteria and protists, animals, plants, fungi, yeah, you know this. There are 6 kingdoms of life, but you're the only one that can make me feel right. Archaea, bacteria and protists, animals, plants, fungi, yeah, you know this. There are 6 kingdoms of life, but you're the only one that can make me feel right.
So we can record the 6 kingdoms here, an example of each. So we have archaea, bacteria, protists, fungi, plants, and animals. Today, we learn about how animals can be split into 2 groups, invertebrates and vertebrates, or no backbone and backbones. We also learned that plants can be split into 2 groups, vascular and non-vascular. Finally, we learned that all life can be grouped into one of 6 kingdoms: archaea, bacteria, protists, fungi, plants, and animals. Stay safe, stay awesome, and learn something new.